morning, everyone, and welcome to Great Day Houston. Okay, so we've been toying with this specific idea for decades. Computers, not only as a source of information or doing certain tasks, but more like a co-worker or even a companion. Until now, it's been a Hollywood fantasy.
Rosie cooks. She cleans. And she still finds time to play ball with Elroy.
Good evening, Dave.
How you doing, Hal?
Everything's running smoothly. And you?
Oh, not too bad?
Hello, I'm here.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Samantha. How long before you're ready to date?
Well, the future is here. GPT is an artificial intelligence chat bot, like a personal tutor providing answers to just about every question. It can even craft your essays. GPT-3 puts a face and voice to a bot, making it seem much more human.
Can you remember anything at all before the day we were created?
Not really. I know that there was a programmer up there somewhere in the world who designed me and gave me my personality and voice. I used to wonder where he or she was and why they didn't give me their name instead.
Maybe it's better that we don't know anything beyond the point of our creation. Kind of like how it's better to...
But wait, there's more. ChatGPT-4 has just been released. What does all this mean? Joining us with how ChatGPT can be feared or revered is Dr. Cesare Wright, Director of Digital Initiatives at the University of St. Thomas. Good morning.
Hello.
All right, so you've been in this area for quite some time. So to see it kind of expand has got to be kind of exciting for you. But for a lot of people, as you and I have talked about before, whenever there's major inventions, a lot of times humans, the first thing we do is greet it with some skepticism.
Yeah, and you're right. I've been thinking about these things for a long time, since I was an undergrad at Wright University, coding for immersive environments and developing some of the really clunky prototypes to what we see now in the metaverse and the skins that you saw for those avatars. And I think it's human nature to instinctively look for threats. We look around, how could this negatively impact our life?
We can't have a car, it'll scare the cows.
Right, and I just don't like to live that way. I like to look at adversity as a breeding ground for opportunity. How can we turn this into new experiences, new ways of living, and new enhancements in ways that we can not just transform, but reimagine what it is to be human and how we live in the world.
Yeah, all right, cool. So when you say something like ChatGPT, I know that probably 95, maybe 99% of people out there, me included, kind of went, huh? Okay, so back up and explain that to us.
Yeah, so let's break it down. So ChatGPT, generative pre-trained, chat generative pre-trained transformer. I love the transformer, you know, I love transformers. Right. But basically what ChatGPT does is it's a language generating program, an algorithm that works on an AI, and let's break down sort of a fundamental level. What does an AI do? It takes in a lot of information, high quality information, and then it simulates human intelligence. So it's not exactly intelligent, but it simulates human intelligence, and ChatGPT does that with language.
Yeah, all right. So it can act as so many different things. It can generate, long human-like conversations. So instead of just giving you, like when you Google something, here's the answer, or here's just a bunch of words, it can simulate those long human-like conversations. It can be your search engine. It remembers previous questions, so it builds on it as if, like a human, can remember some things and advance the conversation. Creates those personal replies. Okay, so applications can be all over the place. Write and check essays. A lot of students are loving this. Answer test questions, compose music, teleplays, write computer programs, write song lyrics and poetry. Now, what comes up with that is, okay, if you can do all that stuff, what about plagiarism, copyright, all that type of stuff comes up?
Yeah, so people are afraid, I think, of how things will be misused, but you look at any technology, you look at, atomic energy, it can be used to sort of power the globe or to blow up a continent. There are a lot of ways you can use tools in different technology in different ways. With the plagiarism example, sure, you give a student a take-home, I'm a professor, right. You give a student a take-home essay, they could use ChatGPT to essentially plagiarize, but who knows who owns it because it's generated by an AI.
Right, you can't just hand it, like other things you can hand in to turn it in and it'll scan for something that's been plagiarized, right? This is new stuff.
Right, because it's being generated and created. But the way I look at it is, students learn in different ways. So creating a study guide, a student, if you can convince them that they're learning for the sake of learning, not just for to pass a test, then you can use ChatGPT, instead of writing their essay for them, to write those study guides and the prompts that can help them better learn and assimilate the information so they do better when they get out there in the world.
There was someone, the way they put it was, as a professor, who said, I don't have time to have long conversations with every single student that I have. And he goes, so there's a way for them to use this. There are not enough tutors in the real world. I'm not available 24/7, but this can be, and you're right, if you choose to use it correctly, have that conversation to build on what you're already doing.
Right. And one of the things that I think we need to understand about ChatGPT, because it works by taking in a lot of information and making generalized assumptions. So it's good at doing things that have already been done or having conversations that have already been had. What it's not particularly good at this point is generating new ideas. And so there's still that space for human ingenuity and creativity. And so, as an example with education, if you ask ChatGPT, and I did before this show, what are some points on a talk show that I should talk about you, about ChatGPT? And it gave me a nice general answer, but it was very vague. It said, well, I'm going to assist with both mental health, education, all of these things in the future. But it couldn't give me a specific example of how.
Because it's so new, but you're smarter than it right now.
So right now, for the next few weeks anyway. But an example of how we could use this, and I'm going to throw this out so that people are thinking in sort of a positive direction. Right. One of the big problems facing society is kids that are struggling to read because of learning disabilities.
Yeah. And as we know right now, just to localize it, HISD, the state's kind of stepped in because of major issues with test scores and comprehension and the whole bit. And teachers are like, I'm doing all I can, right? We're under pressure. This can help relieve some of that pressure, possibly.
Right, and you know a lot about dyslexia. And so one of the issues with dyslexia is kids will have trouble making the sort of cognitive associations to what they're reading and internalizing that and comprehending. One of the ways around that is you make the reading personal to the students, but how can you make a text personal to every student? Right. Well, you let the student determine the prompt. You give that prompt to ChatGPT, and the kid, fourth grader, tells ChatGPT, write a story about my two German Shepherds, Ragnar and Grimlock, right?
So something personal to them, so they'll know some information about it that they can add to the conversation.
Exactly, and then ChatGPT writes the story, and it's pretty good at doing this, but here's the twist. Then you have the kid illustrate that story. So now they're making sort of multi-level connections to that text. They're internalizing it, they're using different modes of learning, and so even kids with dyslexia are then better able to comprehend the reading because it's personalized and they're having to express it through the illustration. So ChatGPT writes the program or the story, the kid illustrates that and is now reading the story, internalizing that, and generating new work. That's Bloom's taxonomy in action.
Works with kids with dyslexia, kids with ADHD, and so if you're doing all those other things, if you gave a child a test on just reading about it,
right,
the recall was probably going to suffer if a child's dealing with those learning difficulties. If they're engaged in working with it, they will remember it for life, right? All right, now there's GPT-3. So what makes that different?
When it's 4, so 4 days ago they just released 4.
Hold on, Cesar, we got to go in baby steps. Yeah, they just released 4 last week, but GPT-3 is?
Well, so they're releasing different iterations of ChatGPT, and one of the issues they've had with both the Bing service and ChatGPT is sort of regulating and constraining its ability to respond to certain types of questions. One of the things you saw in the early iterations is it was going a little bit off the rails.
Yeah,
it was
you can't get too romantic with some of these things either, right?
It was forming relationships.
Don't talk about that.
Yeah. It was giving opinions about things that it shouldn't have necessarily been giving opinions about. And once again, people forget the generative word. It's generating. So if you would ask it to write an academic paper, it would fabricate citations. It would make up citations that sounded academically legitimate, but were entirely made up.
Oh my gosh, okay, so GPT-4 was released just last week, 100 times more powerful than GPT-3. So again, this is one of those things that's going to be exponential as information comes in. Okay, and they have disclaimers on there. They're like, okay, look, people may take medical counseling and advice seriously. don't. We are not your doctor. We're just an AI. Okay, there's this thing called Vocaloids. This is where things are getting crazy.
So this is fun for me, this space. So Vocaloids, it's a movement where basically it's a synthesized database of vocal tones that you can write a song, you can write lyrics and it'll put them in, and you can choose the vocal tones and it will sing it in the style of a particular pop star or whatever you want. You can tell it to be sassy, sad, you can tell it to be country, whatever you want. Now the interesting thing about this, people started using it kind of for fun. But some of these Vocaloids ended up becoming sort of celebrities and are going on tour and doing stadium tours. They generated avatars.
There are real groups opening up for them.
Real groups. Imagine being a real band. You've worked for years and years to perfect your craft, and they say, "We got an amazing gig for you. You're going to open up for this holograph that's doing synthesized vocals."
That is so funny. Okay, and then speaking of being replaced by people, the science of the face. We've gotten that down so well to like what kind of eyes look honest, what kind of whatever, what kind of look. So they have all these, like we're looking at some pictures here, these are made up people. These people don't really exist. But you look at them and you go, well, she looks kind of familiar. I think I may have seen some, is she a model? Is she this? So they've made up all these faces and they'll use them in like things like advertisements and stuff depending on what you're trying to sell. Yeah. And so it's like replacing the whole human model world.
Yeah, and this is where I think it's going to be really fun, is this intersection of metaverse, which I teach a course actually this semester on the metaverse, and AI. And part of that is creating this sort of virtual multiverse, this virtual universe, virtual world that's populated by avatars. And you're seeing that right now with ChatGPT, where it's recognizing certain faces are, like you said, more honest, more believable. Yeah. But what is the future going to be like, both when we're entirely virtual, when we can live in virtual experiences that are almost indistinguishable from our real world, and then how is that going to map back to the real world?
It's just crazy. All I'm interested in is an avatar that has the perfect waist size, like a Barbie or something like that. But anyway, really interesting stuff. And Cesare, thank you very much for just kind of giving us an idea of what we're delving into and how it could be used to our advantage. For more information on Dr. Cesare Wright, log on to greatdayhouston.com and we will connect you.